Running an online business requires passion, knowledge, and a lot of dedication. Adding the complexities of setting up and managing hosting for your website piles on more work when you already have so many plates spinning. Whether you manage one WordPress website or dozens, Kinsta's managed solutions give you access to a platform that's optimized for the fastest speed, has enterprise-grade security features, and is powered by an intuitive custom dashboard with everything you need to manage your sites efficiently. Plus, Kinsta provides human-only WordPress expert support, which is available 24/7, 365 to assist with even the most complex sites. Forget frustrating AI chatbots. Kinsta gives you complete peace of mind by ensuring that your WordPress sites are always online, secure, and performing at their best. Start your journey with Kinsta today and get your first month free. Don't have time to migrate your site? Kinsta takes care of everything for you. Learn more at kinsta.com/podcast. That's KINSTA.com/podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, I get to do this work. I get to sit down with people like Michelle Slater, who takes us on a journey from being completely bedridden with neurological Lyme to the extreme in which she was examining medically assisted suicide. Now, people like Michelle and the stories they offer on this podcast, they leave clues. And I don't want to spoil it, but today she is symptom-free. She takes no supplements or medications, and she is 100% recovered from late-stage neurological Lyme. There are 400,000 people diagnosed a year with Lyme. So stories like these are beautiful resources, and again, they leave clues. So please listen. Take this information as education. This is never medical advice, and it's important to use these powerful healing modalities with discernment, with a guide, and with grace. It's always an invitation to the body to level up, to heal, to shift, and transform. I am so excited for you to hear Michelle and her message and her beautiful tale of being beautifully broken. Let's jump on in. Welcome to the Beautifully Broken podcast. I'm your host, Freddie Kimmel, and on this show we explore the survivor's journey, practitioners making a difference, and the therapeutic treatments and transformational technology that allow the body to heal itself. Witness the inspiration we gain by navigating the human experience with grace, humility, and a healthy dose of mistakes. Because part of being human is being beautifully broken. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Beautifully Broken podcast. We have a very special guest with us this morning. We have Michelle Slater, who is a PhD, and she is a perfect example of somebody who has come through this lens of being beautifully broken. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Freddie. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you here. I was saying, let me just be transparent. The podcasting world, it's wild trying to navigate who you want to get on the show and how you can get people on. And I've got this list of 100 people that are like waiting to just get in. And I get requests all the time to be on the show. And 9 times out of 10, I'll blow through the emails like, no, not at this time. It's not completely resonant. And I read your email from your personal experience and your story and your book that's coming out. And I was like, I want to have this conversation. This is so exciting. So the universe connected us.
Thank you. Yes, I'm really happy to share with you. And I know that our stories resonate. So
yeah, this chronic illness container, right?
Exactly.
The Lyme, the mold, the 15, 20 years of being on a loop of not being able to feel resonant and right. Michelle, can you just start us out? What was the time in your life that was really hard for you? Let's start there.
So Freddie, with Lyme disease, and I eventually developed an autoimmune disorder, and I had mold exposure. So I had a whole variety of things that happened, but it really stemmed from the Lyme. But, it was mysterious. I had all kinds of alarming symptoms around 2011-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a dark, dark period until 2017 when I had a complete recovery. But I would say that it was mysterious symptoms. It was alarming. I was a professor at the time, and it was interfering with my ability to teach, to think, to move my body. And I was experiencing high levels of pain. So that was when it started. And then it took a long time to reach a diagnosis of late-stage neurological Lyme. And by that time, of course, it had wreaked havoc on my body.
When you say Lyme disease, there's such a, man, I see this list going down from the ceiling all the way to the floor because it's such a different felt experience for each human being. For you and your body, what would you say your major symptoms were from Lyme?
So there were a variety of revolving symptoms. I had extreme pain in my joints, in my hands. I couldn't even like pick up my phone and send a text message. Or put my hands around a steering wheel,
Mm,
and I would have migraines. I've never had headaches before, and then I would have this just intense, just clouds in my brain. I couldn't think. I couldn't finish a sentence. I couldn't think of things. I couldn't tell people what I wrote my dissertation on. And it was a deep penetrating fatigue as well. And then, as time went by, I developed other symptoms that would come and go. I had tachycardia, I had tinnitus, I had sinus issues, insomnia, night sweats. Just, it came to the point that if I wanted to go downstairs to get breakfast, I would have to slide down on my bum one step at a time. And I was so tired just getting to the bottom of the stairs. I was like curl up on my floor and
yeah.
just stay there until I could make it to the kitchen. So it was a dark time.
Yeah. And how would you describe your experience again? Many people in this, we'll say this vertical, struggling with Lyme or undiagnosed chronic illness, they try many, 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 many things. What were some of the things that you attempted to try to resolve these symptoms?
So I'm a very proactive person with my health. And
Hmm.
so I tried, and I'm a trained researcher. So I found every mode of testing possible. And it's a long story about the Lyme diagnosis because testing is, it's a complicated thing that I don't have to go into. But, I tried allopathic medicine. I tried the gold standard antibiotic treatment for Lyme once we had a diagnosis. But I've always been a very healthy person. I was a raw vegan for a long time. I've eaten organic. I've juice fasted since I was a child when no one juice fasted. So
Wow.
it was always organic vegetables, very plant-based. I've been meditating and doing yoga, since I was a teenager. So on top of trying the gold standard antibiotics, that was the first approach. I would then, use all of my alternative health treatments in addition to keep my immune system strong. And when the antibiotics really didn't work and I was taking them at high doses,
Mm.
I tried a variety of, supplements, vitamins, far infrared saunas, fasting, water fasting, juice fasting, rife machines, all kinds of things. Everything you could possibly imagine. I think I tried it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild the things we go to, and it's frustrating, but something in your journey, I think magically, I like to think as all these failed attempts that they're not failures, that they're diamonds or they're just like tokens leading us into the forest, into maybe a path of light. So you find yourself, and I just have to read the title of your book because it's amazing. You have a book coming out, Starving to Heal in Siberia. Michelle, how did you find yourself in Siberia? And let's talk about how this relates to Lyme.
Yes, Betty, it's a very interesting question indeed. So I found myself in Siberia because as I said, I had exhausted all of my resources and I was on the verge of committing assisted suicide because I thought I cannot live in this body anymore.
Mm,
And I cannot live here. I cannot inhabit this place. And I can't show up in the world with my light. I have no light to share with anyone. And, I couldn't teach. I couldn't ski. I couldn't run marathons. I could no longer do yoga anymore. And I couldn't even bring light to my loved ones. So I thought, I'm at my end. So I said, if I'm really at my end, let me see if there are any final options. And just one day I was lying in bed and I will obviously never forget it. And at that time I had candida as well as a side effect of the antibiotics. And so I wasn't even looking for Lyme searches. I was looking at candida cures. And I found this magical phrase. And it said that dry fasting, according to Siberian doctor Sergei Filonov, that dry fasting incinerates diseased cells in the body.
mm,
And I was so struck. It sounded so magical. And, I was aware of the process of, autophagy or self-eating. And I thought, well, yes, we are designed in our DNA to go through this process of autophagy, and wild animals do it when they're ill. And so I just furiously tried to find him. And it was difficult to find him, but I did. And it was a very, very convoluted process to getting to Siberia. But he agreed to take me on as a patient. And so, with the help of my husband, I was able to go. He hauled my body to Siberia, and I landed
Wow.
in this place that is the antithesis of what one might imagine, Freddie. No gulags, no cold tundra. It was this lush, mountainous landscape with beautiful flowing rivers, the color of turquoise because they're fed by the glaciers. And the doctor was warm and welcoming, and I felt really nurtured. And I just put all of my faith into him because he was my last ditch effort.
I need to celebrate the role of the caregiver for a second, because I'm imagining you in the United States, and then how are you getting to Siberia only by the love of your partner? Because you said the word hauled. I understand the state that you're describing to me in that late stage neurological Lyme where you can't even barely get down the stairs, let
Yeah.
alone go to Siberia.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's just send some love to your partner from this interview, and everybody that's listening right now. I just want to celebrate him. That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it did help that he is Russian, so he spoke Russian and he was able to contact my doctor and find the ways for me to get there. But it is true that the caregiver is taxed in these situations, and I do have appreciation for all those out there who are helping people who have autoimmune disorders and chronic fatigue and all these mystery illnesses. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, the universe really laid it out for you. They're like, well, let's give her a Russian husband and let's make sure he can communicate with this guide who's going to be able to help her heal. So you're there, you're in Siberia. Continue. How did things start? And what was the plan?
So my doctor always says in Russian, "Посмотрим," which I learned means "we will see." So I'm very organized. What is the plan? And just like you, what's the plan? And he was like, "Посмотрим, we will see." So, he wanted me to settle in. And so I didn't start, the treatment immediately. So he gave me time to settle in. And then, it is dry fasting. I had a significant amount of preparation to do before he would take me. So to get there, I wasn't just going to land and dry fast. So I did what I did that day lying in bed when I found him. I was like, well, I'm going to dry fast right now. And please, dear listeners, do not do that.
Yeah.
Do not do what I did.
Let's define dry fasting, because I mentioned it for sure on the show before, but just for anybody who hears this new, go ahead and define dry fasting for us.
It is very important to do that. Yes. So dry fasting is classic dry fasting, according to the medical definition. The way that Dr. Filanov practices it is to refrain from not only eating, but drinking. So no water, no food, and no even lotions, creams, no brushing the teeth, no rinsing the mouth. That is absolutely out of the question for long periods of time. And so what I did as my prep beforehand was it's like training for a marathon, right? You're not going to go out and do the marathon. So I did one day, I did 3 days. I followed his protocol, and it was this very elegant solution, Freddie, because for years I've been so concentrated on what I could put into my body to kill off this disease.
Yes.
And then there was this elegant solution of what can I take out of my body. And so he was like, I want you to go off all medications. I want you to go off all supplements, no caffeine, no alcohol, which, obviously was not an issue. At that time, when you're not well, you're like, I don't think I'm going to, partake in that. So it was just reducing my diet to very simple plant-based, which is what I was on anyway. And then when I got there, I was ready to do the longer fasts. So the first one that I did within a few days of my arrival, he started me, and I did 7 days of dry fasting. So that was my first one. And then he had a rest period you have to rehabilitate after the dry fast. And so,
Yeah.
as he says, the exit is the most important part of the fast, even more
Oh,
than the fast itself. It has to be done with great precision and care. And you have to then really treat your body, like this sacred place where you're really taking care of it. And then I did a 9-day dry fast. So
yeah.
I went for 9 days with no food, no water, no showers, no rinsing the mouth, no washing my hands. And he wanted me to sleep outside so that I could, at least be exposed to the moisture in the air. So I slept outside the entire time. I put my sleeping bag out under the stars. And it was this very safe environment in the mountains, surrounded by nature.
Mm.
And I undertook his treatments. They do a lot of medical massages and cupping, very, very vigorous liver massages to facilitate the process. And then my only job every day was that he said that walking as much as you can really aids as the body is breaking down these disease cells and, decomposing, and ridding itself of debris. So that to me, Freddie, was unfathomable because I had been bedridden. And so when he said, and you are also going to be walking 10 kilometers a day, I was like, he is mad. He has no idea what state I've been in. And what I found to be very interesting is that the more I dry fasted, the better I felt. And my energy started increasing, and I had the capacity to take those walks slowly on a flat dirt road, pretty flat, but I was able to do the walk and complete all of his treatments. And when I came out of that 9-day dry fast, and you break it with hot water, and then I would just have hot water for a couple of days, followed by very, very simple, watermelon, vegetable salad, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
I felt, Freddie, like I had reincarnated, but back into my 17-year-old body. I just felt like I was shining and bouncing and free. And my memory came back, my ability to run. And I've written 4 books in the 5 years now since I've regained my health. So everything came back. And he did want me to do another long dry fast. And in my case, but he thinks that everyone throughout the world, because of this toxic world that we live in, should dry fast regularly. And he
Mm.
does himself. So it's something that I maintain. I do dry fast periodically, not because I have any symptoms that have ever come back. I have not. I'm grateful for that every single morning that I go running, and then my gratitude does not wear off. So
Yeah. Oh, Michelle, this is so good. There's so many things I want to unpack here. So when you were in Siberia, how many dry fasts did you do and how long were you there?
So I was there, Freddie, for 2 months the first time. I have gone back several times, not because I was ill, but just to, continue the process I discovered for me, this is the ultimate way to maintain the immune system. And so I was there the initial time that led to my complete recovery for 2 months. And during that time, I did the 7-day dry fast, and then I did one 9-day dry fast. And he took extra care for the exits with me. And there are other treatments that they can do once the exits are taking place. So when I came home, though, he wanted me to do another 9-day dry fast on my own a month later in a place where there was nature. So I was able to do that in my home state of Massachusetts in the Berkshires. And I found that since we had trained my body and my body had become so adept at it and acclimated, and the body knows what to do and it becomes its own doctor. And
Mhm.
so it's just for me become a very contemplative. I feel very peaceful. I meditate a lot while I'm dry fasting. There is nothing about it that's uncomfortable. So when I do go into that, I'm in my peaceful dry fasting state. So,
Wow.
there's no discomfort. It's not like going to the gulag. It's not that.
That's incredible. And it's nice to have a frame of reference just to understand scope, the 7-day, the 3-day initial fast, the 9-day, and then another 9-day at home. You're doing things to help. And you referenced a way to assist the body in helping things exit. I'm assuming that's like everything that your body is taking care of from that process of autophagy, where the immune system is going in and working with all these, we'll call them unfriendly bacteria species and viruses that the body doesn't want. So it sounds quite complete. Was fast number one, were you on board? Was it easy for you to do? Or I can only imagine the mental chatter, because I fast, but I'll do water. I'll do some LMNT. If anybody's had LMNT, it's like, it feels like candy, but it's minerals in a drink. But to have nothing on the palate, I can only imagine the mental, emotional chatter must be intense at first.
So, because I have fasted like you, juice fasting, which I think of juice fasting as not fasting or water fasting. I would say that the first one I did at home that day, it was just 24 hours.
Yeah.
I've certainly felt no worse than I did with the symptoms that I had. I said, well, nothing can be worse than that.
Yeah.
So, my mouth was very dry. I did feel weak on the first one, the first 24-hour. And then when he wanted me to do 3 days at home before I went to Siberia, I would say that one was the hardest. The initial ones can be the hardest, and even the first few days. So, and I had taken so many medications. So my liver was, just processing all of this. There was a lot for my body to deal with on those first dry fasts. But the first 3 day, I was so parched. I really did think a lot about water. I wanted to look at water, running water, streams, waterfalls looked very appealing to me. They always do while you're dry fasting. But I was so determined to overcome my illness. I was so motivated to heal, and I meditated a lot. So
Yeah.
that really helped me. But I would say that when I got to the 7-day in Siberia, I trusted my doctor. I could tell that he was a person worthy of my trust, and that he was a serious MD, and he practiced this for 30 years with patients. He has healed a variety of diseases. And so my body was then already becoming used to the dry fasting. And I would say that the 7-day, my mouth was dry. You have no hunger because your mouth is dry. So you don't really feel like eating when your mouth is dry. Most people, the struggle is thirst, but not hunger.
Yeah.
I had a very peaceful feeling, and I was just surrendering, and I was just hopeful.
Yeah. Only because I just want to throw this out there, and I'm like, I'm like programmed for compliance these days, only because I want people to be, I realize how unique your body is in your story. And I would always want to frame this, like you said in the beginning, this is not something to go just jump into tomorrow.
No one can do this.
And so who is the guide is there a guide in the United States? Is there a center that's understanding the education and the awareness around a dry fast for, we're going to call it this medical supervision window here in the States?
Yes, I'm so glad that you brought that up, Freddie, because on every interview that I do, I state emphatically, do not do this at home. Do not do it without medical supervision. And you asked the right question. So thank you. There is no one who is medically trained to supervise dry fast in the United States. In fact, there are some people who have social media accounts who are doing extended dry fasts that are very dangerous. And I really would counsel people against thinking that a dry fast longer than, say, 11 days is a safe medical way to proceed. It's very alarming to see that. I would say that Dr. Filonov, he sees patients on Zoom now. I was his first American patient. And since I went, and I started writing a blog, many people have gone to him. And so now he has a whole system, which he never had before. So he takes patients over Zoom. He has a translator. He's very accessible. He really cares about each one of his patients. And he does run fasting retreats, no longer in Russia, but in Montenegro, Turkey, various places where people can get in with visa situations,
Yeah.
current state of the world. So, I do really recommend reaching out to him. I know he has a website, which I think is filonov.net. And so with supervision, one can dry fast very safely, but if you do it, you just have to do it right, you know.
Yeah.
And then in my book that is, coming out on Tuesday, Starving to Heal in Siberia, I worked closely with my doctor as I was writing it, and I take the reader through the entire protocol, the prep for dry fasting, how long you can safely dry fast at home, how to exit, what exit foods to eat. I have an appendix with recipes and with meditations to help facilitate the process. So I would say that my book is very medically sound because I worked closely, with the doctor as I was writing it.
Beautiful. One thing you said that really stuck out for me, you said after your 9-day fast, you were reborn into a 17-year-old body. And I love that you chose that age because I have a visualization that I do. There's this memory I have of being in a theater in high school and just kind of running around with reckless abandon, no fear for pain or joint pain. And so the 17-year-old version of me is like, I can see that glowing light and that image. I think it's something very powerful that I'll hold in my meditations when I'm working through a little bit of adversity or a little bit of joint pain that day. That's a great visual. Do you find yourself with these guided meditations and the space that you're holding in your consciousness, do you try to go back and visit that younger version of yourself ever?
So I feel that I embody that younger version of myself. So I feel like that light that I felt then, that purity, that light, that just, desire to bring light to the world, to now to pay it forward. I mean, my mission with this is to pay it forward. So I do visualize a lot with light, bringing light into my space, into my body. And so I feel that I sort of embody that younger version of myself at the same time that I am really in a 47-year-old body. But
Yeah.
I run every day. I've been rock climbing in the Swiss and French Alps all summer. So I'm just like celebrating that my body's working very well for me. And so I kind of still feel like I'm embodying that.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, you look amazing for your age. Incredible.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I find that I do find there is an anti-aging benefit to going without food. I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and there were two data scientists out of the University of Arizona, and I can't remember their names, but they were looking at the fact that you're more likely to die of obesity in the United States than you are of starvation. And
Absolutely.
that I almost pulled over in the car. You're more likely to die of obesity in the United States. And of course, we could look at obesity as just a product of metabolic dysfunction. But you're this shining example in this doctor's work of where we've taken what the body's natural mechanisms are and we've just realigned those to self-correct. And I think for me, that's the most exciting message about hearing you tell your story and your personal experience.
I would like to add to that. I'm so glad that you brought that up too, because it's inflammation and obesity, as we know, are so related. And in inflammation also in the body is what leads to disease. And so the dry fasting just eliminates inflammation.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. So that is really interesting. And then in terms of the adipose tissue, so a person could dry fast for 2 or 3 days just on 1 kilo of fat alone in the body. And there are reserves. It just has to be done wisely. But it is a way to, I think that is absolutely right. That the problem is excess adipose tissue rather than caloric restriction, which, and Mark Mattson's work on that has been really interesting too, on caloric restriction and anti-aging. So it is a fascinating field, and the potential to make medical breakthroughs is vast.
Yeah. And I think what's also exciting here, and I would implore anybody hearing this just to remember, you don't have to do one, right? You can stack some of these things that we talk about. There is the idea of eating very clean, removing all food from a box, right? There's this trend now where I'm watching everything that was junk food from the 80s be made into a keto friendly Oreo cookie bar with cassava flour, and God bless them. And go wear a blood glucose monitor and watch how your blood glucose spikes from these holistic snacks. It's not a better version, but we have this idea of stacking these things on. Like, I have to offer this, and I've thought about this before. In the middle of and I'll keep it short for the audience. So like Freddie always talks about his cancer. In the middle of me going through cancer, which was bookended by like 6 years of Lyme, in the middle of a huge surgery, it was called a retroperitoneal lymph node dissection, RPLND. And that's where they go and take all your organs out and they put them back. After that surgery, I went through basically like a medically induced fast for almost 12 days because the organs weren't turning back on. So I couldn't do it. There was nothing happening. There was no ice chips. It was all tubes in my body. But I had this period of like 5 months where all the inflammation in my body from Lyme, because I was on Plaquenil leading up to that, was gone. And I remember I was like, because I was asking my doctor, I'm like, am I healed? I can open my hands. They're like, we're not worried about that right now. We're looking at these necrotic tumors and seeing if your cancer's gone. Every little bit of inflammation was gone for 4.5 months. I could eat anything. I had no food sensitivities, all of it. And then it hit me like a brick wall. And I remember it was probably like a 1-day shift from going to like, it's good. And then it was like bad again. And I never connected the dots to that 12 days in the hospital, but that had to be it, right?
Absolutely.
Right?
I think that the power of that. So that's how, if we manipulate the fast with the exits and with the pulse dry fasting and, then in a true dry fast without even any liquids, then that could have been extended and had tremendous healing power.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What a remarkable journey you have been through.
Oh, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I went to the doctor for the first time in like 3 years yesterday. I sat down with a nurse practitioner because like you, I've found enough stuff to work from a lifestyle perspective that's made me pretty healthy and robust and, all the good things. There's always room for improvement. But it was just this great reminder of like this, there'll be times when you do want to sit down with somebody outside your little internal circle. You want someone to mirror back. Is it all good? Is it bad? So it was great to sit down with a doctor and have a professional opinion. And it was really empowering to say, oh my God, I went 3 years. I stopped all my medications, right? Thyroid was in range. It could be optimized, right? There's little things that could be optimized, but it was all decent. And so that's my body did that, right? I didn't do that. My body, I put enough lifestyle things in place for my body to be able to heal. But your story is it's such a powerful reminder. I know the power of fasting. I know the power of going without. And we forget, especially in this country.
We do. We absolutely do. And I will add that there is this drive to put into the body. And I wanted to add that since I did my initial dry fasts in Siberia, and I had taken thousands of supplements, I came home and I filled this massive wine cooler with all of my supplements and medications because they said, don't take anything anymore. So it was full of what I had and what I had been taking every day. And I still kind of have it just to look at it. Like it's like a piece of art. It's like an installation. And I haven't taken anything since then. And, and
Awesome.
I don't get sick. I did have COVID in Switzerland this spring skiing. I didn't even know that I had it. I was just trying to get on the plane back to the States and took a test and it tested positive, but I was like romping around outside because my immune system is so strong now that, I'm able to just ward things off and I maintain it, but I don't put anything in my body, but my food.
It's incredible. So another thing I just want to reflect on and just get a second version is you said you have absolutely no symptoms and you had neurological Lyme, you had systemic inflammation, you could barely walk down the stairs and you're still not taking any supplements?
I still do not take anything.
That's wild.
I do not have any symptoms. I have the full return of my memory, of my body. In fact, I have far more energy than I had, and even right before my illness. So I would say that it catapulted me into this state of just really radiant health.
Amazing.
I would never reach that without having gone through what I went through. So
yeah, you've been gifted with this. And obviously you've been gifted with the beautiful talent of writing and putting your story down in black and white and sharing with others. So clearly you are like a soul that picked this journey, and I'm going to go through this suffering and I'm going to bring it to other people. At least that's the way I'm looking at it right now, is you're the shining living example of being through on the other side. So the book, Starving to Heal in Siberia, which will be out by the time we release this podcast, what do you want people to take from it? What do you want people to do with your book?
I would like people to read the book who are suffering, who perhaps have the same frustration or despair and feel that they've been told to get used to a new normal and it feels very abnormal.
Mm.
So I would like to provide hope through my journey and the protocol that I share. But it's also for healthy people or people who are interested in these scientific breakthroughs or what is ancient knowledge that we're now rediscovering about the body's capacity to heal and maintain itself. So, because I think that we can all benefit from an upgrade in our immune systems and our everyday health. And so I just want to share it for others. I'm a very private person. I never intended to write, a memoir / self-help book, but I had to do it because I feel so compelled if anybody could benefit from this story. And the people who have, read my blog already and gone to Siberia and gone through this process, I have people who just keep telling me how grateful they are, and I watch them get their lives back. And that's the greatest gift for me. So I just want to pay it forward.
Incredible. I celebrate everything you're doing. I celebrate your story. It's a true masterpiece of being beautifully broken. You putting the pieces back together. And with that, Michelle, what does it mean to you to be beautifully broken?
I've thought about that a lot, Freddie. I love your title. So for me, I was always this very driven person. I was a high functioning person. And the Lyme disease, it threw me down so that I was broken. And then I thought that I would, never be able to rise back up again. But it taught me, I was always goal oriented. I will get my PhD and then I will get a tenure track job and then we'll write an academic book. So I always had to, I think my self-worth was very much associated with my high productivity levels.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was, lying flat in bed with Lyme, I realized I must just love myself as I am. One Mish. So I came up with this slogan. My nickname is Mish. And I would say one Mish, lovable as is, like a used car that's like dented and it's like one Volvo for sale as is. So it's like one Mish, lovable as is. So it really taught me to accept myself like the Japanese aesthetic of wabi-sabi with my dented bits in my body that just didn't work properly and had pain. And I think that coming out of the Lyme, I still have that with me. So I'm functioning again, I'm writing again, but I don't have that driven, goal-oriented. My self-love is wrapped up in whether, I have a PhD or I have the tenure track job. I still feel one niche, lovable as is post-Lyme. And for me, that's one of the greatest gifts that Lyme gave me, is to come to that epiphany.
Beautiful. Well, Michelle, we'll link your blog and we'll link the book that people can pick up on Amazon in the show notes. And it was just an honor having you here. And I'm so reinvigorated about this topic. So I'm going to get your book and I'm going to go start reading. And yeah, wonderful, wonderful having you here.
I've really enjoyed speaking with you. And I know that we share this like-minded approach. So thank you for having me and for sharing my story.
Yes, of course. Thank you for being a guest on the Beautifully Broken podcast. Namaste.
Namaste.
Team, thank you for creating a wave of momentum that is driving season 5 of the Beautifully Broken podcast. My heart thanks you for tuning in. And if you enjoyed today's show, head over to Apple Podcasts and now Spotify. Spotify is new and you can leave a review. 5 stars if you loved it. And before you go, I have something really important I need to offer. There are 2 ways we can build this relationship. The first is to join my membership program at buymeacoffee.com/FreddieSaidGo. You get early access to all the podcasts, bonus episodes, discounted consults, and free webinars covering all the wellness technologies. The second is to support beautifullybroken.world. That's right, I have a brand new website and new store, beautifullybroken.world. Listed on here are all the wellness tools, supplements, educational courses, and products that I absolutely love. Most of them offer significant discounts by clicking the link or using the code. Please know that they don't cost you anything extra. And at the same time, they do support the podcast through affiliations. What's that? I just got a message from my lawyers, my internet team of lawyers. They wanted me to tell you that the information on this podcast is for educational purposes only. By listening, you agree not to use the information found here as medical advice. Do you agree? Yes, you agree. To treat any medical condition in yourself or others, always consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. Finally, our closing. The world is changing. We need you at your very best. So always take the steps to be upgrading your energy, your mindset, and your heart. Remember, while life is pain, putting the fractured pieces back together is a beautiful process. I love you. I'm your host, Freddie Kimmel.
Running an online business requires passion, knowledge, and a lot of dedication. Adding the complexities of setting up and managing hosting for your website piles on more work when you already have so many plates spinning. Whether you manage one WordPress website or dozens, Kinsta's managed solutions give you access to a platform that's optimized for the fastest speed, has enterprise-grade security features, and is powered by an intuitive custom dashboard with everything you need to manage your sites efficiently. Plus, Kinsta provides human-only WordPress expert support, which is available 24/7, 365 to assist with even the most complex sites. Forget frustrating AI chatbots. Kinsta gives you complete peace of mind by ensuring that your WordPress sites are always online, secure, and performing at their best. Start your journey with Kinsta today and get your first month free. Don't have time to migrate your site? Kinsta takes care of everything for you. Learn more at kinsta.com/podcast. That's KINSTA.com/podcast.